This is another thing which I talk about a lot, and I think is very important to understand when things are going wrong with a customer and you're not really making some traction, you're not getting where you hope to be, is trying to understand the customer's preference in learning or their submodalities. Now, this is a concept which is very prevalent in I guess, a technique or a line of thought called neuro-linguistic programming or NLP. You can look this up, and there's many books on it. Very, very effective. One is NLP at Work by Sue Knight, and it's something which I believe all of us should really have an ear for and should pick up. And I hope after I explain this that you hear it more and more often in your day-to-day life. Now, when we're receiving information, we have a preference. It can change at any given time, but nonetheless, we do have a preference, and it usually stays around the particular thing that throughout our whole life, really, that we would prefer. Now, the three of them here, of course, are visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Now, what that means is your senses, really, your sense of sight, your sense of hearing, and your sense of touch. Now, the interesting thing is when people are speaking and they are either confirming that they're getting the information they like, or they're trying to give you subtle hints to the fact that you need to change, they usually reference this kind of stuff. And this was the one thing that I think for me was the kind of biggest eye opener when I began doing this was you can very quickly understand where a person would prefer to receive information, right? When I present this, for example, in big halls, I presented to hundreds of people, I can watch the crowd and see, for example, whoever it is that's writing notes right now. They're writing because they are writing with their hands, sense of touch. They're kinesthetic. Therefore, they're kind of hands-on. They would rather simply be given the information and be allowed to test it out themselves, right? Now, then you have visual and auditory, where visual are people who would like a big presentation, a lot of colour, a lot of different things in it. And auditory, you simply need to be clear in your delivery of the information and make sure that you pay careful attention to how they speak and what they believe to be good communication. And when you get on these situations where you're giving something to a customer, you're asking them to run the PSA diagnostics on a laptop. You could say something as simple as, so if you just run the PSA, these are some diagnostics that are built into the laptops. You simply need to hold the FN key and the power button. Sorry, the what? The FN key. Just bottom left. It's blue FN key. S for Sierra. No, sorry, apologies. F for Foxtrot, N for November. So F for Foxtrot, N for November, and power. No, not those keys. And now you're down a rabbit hole with the customer, and you don't know what day it is, what's happening. You barely even know what's going on because of the fact that the auditory aspect hasn't been clear enough. And you might even find, and this is the examples that are on screen right now, is the fact that they will give you indications of how they would rather receive it. Such as, I see what you're saying, I like how this looks actually. I'm looking for the FN key, but I can't see it. They're visual. You've not given them a visual, you've simply given them a description of it. So maybe share your pictures of what you're doing. Find something on the support site, email that over, let them see it. Give them a YouTube video of it, give them a visual of it. Or more importantly, if they're kinesthetic and it's like, I just don't really find it, I'm looking at the keys and I can't put my finger on which one it is. You can't put their finger on which one it is, i.e. they want a hands-on, they want to be allowed to simply find it themselves. Can you send me something to let me do this and come back to you? Right? Now, I have been fascinated doing this myself, and I have done this many a time. I've been all over the world and I've done this technique a lot, where you can very quickly change your approach. You're all having to use auditory as your beginning standpoint. That's why it's in the middle. But you can change to visual or kinesthetic, and you can give the customer the choice of what they would rather do. Kinesthetic, you could simply advise, well, if you're struggling, what I could do is create an email just with all the information on how to do it, and then you could get back to me. That gives them the ability to learn on their own and pick it up themselves. Listen for little things. They might be talking about how they feel also. They're not really talking about, their feelings and how, they're a bit melancholy that day, right? They're talking about their sense of touch, right? So when they're talking about I feel, that's them telling you they'd rather have a hands-on kind of ability. These are the type of customers that would rather be left alone with IKEA furniture instead of helped with it. So give them that opportunity. Visual, of course, very easy thing there would be YouTube videos and support site stuff. Give them something that is very visual. Not reading. Reading is different. You read with your finger, you see people doing that. They're kinesthetic. Reading's different, but visual is like a walkthrough of it. And auditory, of course, is really your bread and butter. I would imagine you all know that. But listen to it. They might say, I like how that sounds. Or they might tell you, sorry, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but means they don't hear what you're saying. But changes that whole thing. I hear what you're saying, but means they didn't hear what you were saying. You weren't clear enough with what you did. You weren't. It's nothing to do with their ability to hear you. You weren't clear enough. So have a listen for these kind of things. This is a bit harder to pick up, but as you hear the customers use this kind of language, you'll be fascinated to hear how often someone will tell you what they're doing, even if they're on a call and they're playing with something as they're doing it, and you can hear them typing or they can do something. They're kinesthetic. They're using their hands as they're speaking. So try that out and let us know what you think.